It was 7:15 a.m. in Savannah when I opened a voice message that turned my world upside down. My 1-year-old daughter, Amy, was happily babbling in her high chair, unaware that her father had just shattered our life with a single message. The message began with the smug words, "Moving on." I almost spilled my coffee when I listened to the recording. James, my husband of 5 years, was bragging about his plans with a young blonde who was barely past 20. He mentioned our home at Buford Lake, our country house that we had furnished just a year ago, the very house where we spent countless weekends planning our future together. "The house is now mine," James declared. "I've already moved in there with Jessica. My lawyer will send divorce papers. Don't bother fighting. Everything is under my name." I felt my hands tremble as I lowered my coffee mug. But this wasn't a tremble of fear. Cold calculation with a hint of irony spread through me. James truly thought he could simply send me a voice message about the divorce and claim our country house, a house that my company financed. What a naive novice. I looked at our daughter, still innocent and happy playing with her breakfast, then shifted my gaze to Amy, reaching for toys with the same stubbornness that I had. 5 years of marriage, and this was how he decided to end it, with a smug message and plans with a woman nearly half my age. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone. My finger hovered over James's contact for a moment before I pressed block. Then I opened my email and typed 2 short sentences in reply. "Are you sure? Better check the documents carefully." I sent the message, blocked his address, and turned to my daughter with a smile. James always underestimated me. He saw me as the accommodating wife who supported his career while running my business on the side. He probably thought I would burst into tears, maybe even beg him to reconsider, but he forgot one important detail. I didn't build a successful, eco-friendly outdoor gear company by being naive in protecting my assets. Looking back, I realize I should have seen this coming. The signs were there. Tiny red flags I ignored because I was too busy. A growing business, a newborn daughter. In the last 3 months, James frequently traveled to the lake house on business, claiming he needed peace and quiet to work on a major corporate merger. I had built my company from scratch while supporting his career steps. When we met 6 years ago, I was already running a successful eco-friendly gear business. But James treated it as a cute hobby, enjoyed telling everyone how he helped turn it into something serious. The truth is, my company tripled in value during our marriage, all thanks to my hard work and strategic planning. The idea for the Buford Lake House was mine, the perfect spot for a demonstration area for my products, close enough to Savannah for weekend trips, but far enough to feel like a true refuge. My company invested in its renovation to rent it out as green lodging, but James insisted the house be in his name, supposedly for tax advantages. I agreed, but not before my attorney drew up precise documents confirming the true ownership of the property. Last week, James was especially distant, spending hours on the phone in our home office. When I asked about the merger, he snapped, saying I wouldn't understand the complexities of retail trade. Funny, considering I had secretly managed his investment portfolio for the past 3 years. I took Amy out of her high chair and hugged her, inhaling her sweet baby scent. She had James's eyes, but my determination? I had already seen it in how she handled every new challenge. Looking at her now, my resolve strengthened. This was not just about me. It was about protecting her future. With Amy on my hip, I walked into the home office and opened my laptop. Within minutes, I sent my attorney, Ashley, an email with documents proving my company financed the Buford Lake House. Then I accessed recordings from the home smart system installed to monitor rentals. Another precaution James wasn't aware of. The system recorded everything. Every visit, every guest, every betrayal. Jessica might have enjoyed her victory at the lake house, but she had no idea she was the star of recordings that would play a key role in the divorce proceedings. My phone buzzed. A message from Cassandra, my assistant. "Lila, you need to see this," she wrote, attaching a link to Jessica's TikTok profile. As I scrolled through the videos from months ago, I found dozens of clips featuring Jessica and James. Some were filmed in our bedroom at the lake house, where she flaunted my clothes and used my things. In her latest post, she boasted about a handmade pendant, the same one I'd created for Amy to represent the values of my brand. I felt nauseated. This wasn't a recent affair. Their relationship began even before Amy was born. In a video filmed 8 months ago, Jessica proudly displayed a key to the lake house, captioned, "My sweet home with my love." A new chapter. Moving in together, and a loving emoji. While I spent sleepless nights with our newborn, James played house with a woman who'd barely finished college. The dates on the videos perfectly matched his business trips. Every time he claimed to be working late, every weekend he supposedly traveled to check on the lake house. It was all lies. I opened the bank app, and there came the second blow. Funds for my company's new eco line vanished. All the money, nearly $100,000, had been transferred to an offshore account in Jessica's name. James disguised it as her startup capital. I immediately called the bank, then my attorney. Within an hour, I had confirmation. James had been systematically transferring money for months, preparing for this moment. He even manipulated cryptocurrency investments I created for Amy's future, thinking the anonymity of crypto would save him. He also tried to access my business accounts but failed. They were protected by ironclad contracts and separate banking agreements. Cassandra called while I was talking to my attorney. "Lila, it's not over," she said, sending a series of screenshots from Jessica's private TikTok page. The girl bragged to her friends about snagging a wealthy older man and how she and James planned to rob his boring wife blind. There were even messages mocking me for being naive and too busy with my little eco company to notice what was happening. They didn't realize this little company had made me a millionaire 3 times over. I kept this information secret, letting James think my business was just successful, but not fantastically profitable. His ego never allowed him to delve into my financial reports and understand what I had truly built. I looked at Amy peacefully sleeping in her playpen. "Don't worry, baby," I whispered. "Mommy's going to show Daddy what happens when you underestimate a woman in business." The next few hours were filled with focused work. My attorney Ashley arrived at my home shortly before noon. We sat in my office, reviewing documents while Amy slept upstairs under Cassandra's watchful eye. I hired extra security for the house. Something told me James wouldn't be happy with my response. "He's not as smart as he thinks," Ashley said, studying the documents on the lake house. "Even if the house is in his name, we have indisputable proof it was financed by your company. Transfer records, contracts, even his own admissions and voice messages. It's all here." I nodded and opened the smart home system records on my laptop. "And that's not all. Look here." The footage showed James and Jessica entering the lake house at various times over the past months. But Ashley was particularly interested in recordings from 2 days ago, which showed James carrying out box after box, including samples of my new biodegradable tent fabric. "This is an attempt to steal business assets," Ashley noted, taking notes. "These samples were created through your company for the demonstration area. We have all the documents." At that moment, my phone lit up. A call from an unknown number. I put it on speaker. "Think you're so clever, huh?" Check your work email, Lila. My attorneys haven't been idle." I opened the email and my heart skipped a beat. James's attorneys filed an urgent motion claiming my business was built on his expertise and connections. They demanded a full audit and temporary control of my company's accounts during the divorce process. "You really try to take my company?" My voice remained calm despite the furious pounding in my chest. "The company I created before we even met?" "You created." He laughed coldly. "Who do you think gave you all those retail contacts, introduced you to the right people? Admit it, Lila. Without me, you'd be nobody. Jessica understands that. She knows how to be grateful." I muted the microphone and turned to Ashley, who was already typing furiously on her laptop. She held up a finger, signaling me to wait. To buy time, I unmuted the microphone. "James, think long and hard about what you're doing." "Oh, I have thought. My attorneys will be in touch about Amy. You're too busy with your precious eco business to be a proper mother. But Jessica is great with kids. She was a nanny." The threat to take Amy was predictable. But before I could reply, Ashley slid her laptop toward me. The screen displayed a 3-year-old letter James had sent to his cousin, complaining about my success. "She doesn't listen to my business advice at all. Says she doesn't need my help. And she's right. Her company is worth more than my annual salary. It's humiliating." I smiled and said into the phone, "James, I just sent something to your attorney. Check before threatening me about my company." "What are you talking about?" "Let's say blockchain transaction history isn't as secretive as you thought. Withdraw your attorneys, or the next letter will go to your boss. Wonder what he'll think about those contacts you supposedly provided me." The line went silent, and then he hung up. Ashley continued analyzing James's financial transactions while Cassandra burst into the office, looking pale as a sheet. "Lila, you need to see this right now." She handed me a tablet. The screen displayed a draft press release from a major retail network announcing James's promotion to financial director next month. Everything fell into place. The timing of his affair with Jessica, the strategic money movements, the forged papers on the lake house. This wasn't just leaving me. He was cleaning up ahead of a big career leap, securing assets and minimizing loss during the divorce. And that's not all. Cassandra swiped the screen to reveal another document. Jessica isn't just a random girlfriend. She's the niece of Elliot, the CEO. My breath caught. James didn't fall for a young woman. He planned a relationship with the CEO's niece to assure his promotion. The lake house, stolen funds, even threats regarding Amy. It was all part of his plan to start a new life as financial director with an ideal, well-connected young wife. Ashley looked up from her laptop. "Lila, I found something else. The merger James was working on involves taking over one of your research partners. If he becomes financial director, he'll gain access to your patents through the merger. He's particularly interested in your biodegradable tent fabric." I clenched my fists. James wasn't just trying to hurt me personally. He was preparing to destroy everything I'd built so his company could cut corners on quality and ecology. I thought about those nights he stayed up in the home office, claiming to be working on merger documents. Was he digging through my business files? "Check our home network activity," I told Cassandra. "Focus on any attempts to access company servers." While Cassandra worked, Ashley made another discovery. "Look at these messages between James and Jessica. They're dated 6 months ago. They planned this when Amy wasn't even walking." In one message, Jessica wrote, "Once you become financial director, we'll use insider information to push Lila's eco company out of the market. Uncle Elliot promised he'd help with the patents." I felt sick at the thought of them plotting all this while I cared for our newborn daughter. But their arrogance made them careless. They left a trail of evidence that could not only ruin James's promotion, but also damage Elliot's reputation. Cassandra's voice broke my thoughts. Found multiple attempts to access the company servers from James's laptop. He didn't break through our blockchain protection, but he tried. And that's not all. Looks like we have a mole, a former employee who's leaking minor data. Corporate espionage, I said calmly. The situation was more serious than I thought, but nothing unforeseen. I stood and walked to the window, watching Amy play in her playpen with her favorite plush elephant. James thought his relationship with Jessica secured his future. But he forgot the most important business lesson: never underestimate your opponent. Ashley turned to me. Prepare a letter for the company board. Include evidence of James's attempt at corporate espionage and the CEO's involvement in using insider information to attack a competitor. Add the smart home system recordings showing James stealing company assets from the demo area. And what about the mole? Cassandra asked. I smiled grimly. Feed him false information. Let him think he's got something valuable. But really, we're luring them into a trap. As we were preparing the board letter, my phone buzzed. An alert from the smart system at Buford Lake. James was back, and he wasn't alone. He was with Jessica and her uncle Elliot, the CEO. They carried boxes into the house, undoubtedly more of my things and possibly prototypes. Wait, I told Ashley, watching the live feed. Let's see what they do first. Through the smart home system, we saw them in the living room. The sound was crystal clear, another feature James hadn't bothered to understand. They were celebrating, holding glasses of champagne from my craft collection from Savannah. For the future financial director. Elliot toasted James and my wonderful niece, who helped orchestrate it all. Lila has no idea what's coming, James laughed. Tomorrow morning, the board will announce my promotion, and by lunchtime, our legal team will gain control of her company accounts for auditing. In a month, her business will be wiped out. The best part, Jessica chimed in. She thinks the lake house is her main problem. Wait till she finds out about the offshore accounts. I shivered. Cassandra? What other offshore accounts? Cassandra's fingers flew over the keyboard. Minutes later, her face darkened. Found it. James has been transferring money to offshore holdings for months. He managed to siphon off nearly $300,000 from crypto investments for Amy. This was more serious than I thought, but still manageable. I could track these transactions via blockchain. The uproar over the lake house was indeed just a distraction from his larger scheme, but then Elliot said something that made my shoulders tense. Once Lila's company falls, our merger will go through smoothly. We'll get her patents on biodegradable fabric. Her market share will be divided among our subsidiaries, and her pesky ethical business model will be just a memory. My company wasn't just successful. It changed the rules of the outdoor gear industry by committing to eco-friendly practices and fair labor conditions. This wasn't just about James's promotion or his affair. They wanted to destroy everything I built because it threatened their way of doing business based on savings through quality and ecology. Send the letter, I said to Ashley, but first, access the backup server. Password, Amy's birthday, and attach the file titled Insurance. Ashley's eyes widened as she opened the file. It contained years of documentation on unethical practices and savings at the expense of workers at James's company. Information I'd gathered while managing his investment portfolio. I'd kept it as insurance, never truly thinking it would come in handy. Lila, Cassandra interrupted, looking at the screen. James is trying to access company servers again from the lake house. He's desperate. I looked at the live feed from the smart home system. James excused himself and went into the office. My office. He sat at my desk, probably trying to hack business accounts again, but this time our IT team was ready. They'd created a fake portal using AI, so he'd think he was succeeding. Let him, I told Cassandra. Let him think he's won. Thanks to our IT team, James was given fake access to the servers. In 10 minutes, the letter would go out to the board and their house of cards would collapse. Ashley looked up from the laptop. The letter is ready. Should I send it? I took one last look at the live feed. James, Jessica, and Elliot were still celebrating their imagined victory. Send it. The reaction came faster than I expected. Minutes after sending the letter, Elliot's phone rang. From the feed, we saw his face pale as he listened. Apparently, investors were already responding. "What do you mean public call with shareholders?" he shouted into the phone. "Who sent what evidence?" James grabbed his laptop, froze. His screen locked up and a message appeared. Checkmate. Color drained from his face. Servers. She knew. Lila knew I tried to access. This isn't over, I whispered to Ashley, watching the scene unfold. Wait. As if on cue, Jessica's phone started blowing up with notifications. Allies from the eco business distributed her closed TikTok videos to every participant on the call, the ones where she boasted about stolen designs and their plans. Cameras captured the moment their celebration turned into panic. Elliot shouted into the phone. James frantically tried to regain control of his laptop. Jessica sobbed, mascara running down her face. Then, police cars arrived. Turns out corporate espionage and financial manipulation are serious crimes. Who would have thought? I held Amy in my arms and hugged her tightly as I watched the feed. See, baby, this is what happens when people underestimate your mom. The last thing I saw before the feed cut out was James being led away in handcuffs, still screaming that the house belonged to him. The fallout was monumental. Within a day, James and Elliot were fired. Investor investigations uncovered more than I knew, not just the conspiracy against my company, but years of unethical practices. Jessica's involvement in corporate espionage ruined her budding influencer career. The last I heard, she'd returned to her parents somewhere in Ohio. Offshore accounts were frozen, and I easily tracked transactions via blockchain. All stolen money was returned. The issue with Buford Lake was resolved too. Attempting to steal company assets is a perfect way to lose any rights to property. The house was transferred to my name, as it should have been from the start. James tried to apologize, sending lengthy messages about losing himself, how he was tempted by power and a young woman. I didn't reply. The divorce papers were clear. He lost everything he tried to steal and more. Evidence of his corporate espionage meant he could never work in retail again. Meanwhile, the ethical model of my eco-friendly gear business attracted even more investors after the scandal. We expanded into markets previously dominated by James's company, and our reputation for honesty drew customers who'd lost faith in traditional retail networks. Now, Amy and I spend weekends at Buford Lake, turned into a center for eco-workshops, a symbol of victory and Amy's future. Sometimes, sitting on the terrace and watching her play on the trails of Blue Ridge, I think about James's smug voice message. He thought he was announcing his victory, but in reality, it was simply documenting the beginning of his downfall. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.